Welcome to the Leesburg's Park and Recreation Show. I'm your host, Claudia Verga. It is no surprise that Florida leads the nation with just under 1 million registered watered vessels. Here in the lakefront city, there's no greater place to own a boat. However, with any activity involving fast motors, there are always risks as well. Today we have Jennifer McGavro, Assistant Director of Parks, to discuss boating safety with us. Later, we'll get a recap from Bruce Erickson, the General Manager of our favorite Florida Collegiate Summer League baseball team, the Leesburg Lightning. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Claudia.
It's so great to have you here.
Thank you.
When I think about boating, I think about fun. I don't necessarily think about, safety.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. They get a boat and they just can't wait to jump in it and go out and have fun and go as fast as they can. For that reason, there's some pretty scary statistics on boating accidents here for the state of Florida. In 2011, we had just under 800 accidents. And a boating accident is considered where either there's over $2,000 worth of damage, loss of life, or an injury. So it's a pretty remarkable statistic when you take into account the parameters for what they consider an accident. And that's at least 2 accidents a day. Of those accidents, 67 of them resulted in fatalities, and that's even worse.
That is worse. 67.
67 fatalities here in the state of Florida last year. And so much of it is preventable, and so many times our perception of who is more prone to be in an accident or have an accident is skewed. I know myself, I thought maybe it would be younger boaters, but actually it's just over 70% of the accidents involved boaters over the age of 35.
Now, you just mentioned that some of them could be preventable.
A lot of them, yes.
What could we do to prevent these accidents?
I've brought some safety gear to show, and this is all stuff, a lot of it is required. So if you ever get pulled over by Marine Patrol or the Sheriff's Marine Patrol, you're going to need to show them you have this anyway. But a lot of them is stuff, it's not required, but it would just make good common sense to have it. Better to have it and not need it. On every boat, you are required to have a life preserver, life vest, for every person on board. That includes people who are on the tubes or water skiing, for every person, and it's got to be the appropriate size. You can't have a 5-year-old child and have a life preserver this size. You got to show that you have appropriate size vests for everybody, and they all need to be Coast Guard approved, which they're clearly marked when they're Coast Guard approved. Right on the inside, it'll tell you if this is Coast Guard approved or not. So one of these for every person.
Now, do they have to wear that while they're on the boat, or?
It's not required unless it's a child ages 6 and under. They absolutely must have one on at all times. Otherwise, it's voluntary. But a good deal of the fatalities that occurred are drownings. People fall overboard and either hit their head or they drowned. So much of that could be prevented by wearing your life preserver. A lot of people look at these and they say, well, that's so big and bulky, I don't want to wear that. And I understand, I'm a boater. I don't want to wear a big heavy vest either. And they've come out with some really remarkable life preservers that inflate should you go into the water. But while you're wearing it, it's a very lightweight, small, understated accessory that you don't even know is there. But this way, if you fall into the water, it inflates and you're protected.
Okay.
Also on board, and this is required, is a non-life vest flotation device. And this is something you would throw to somebody who's fallen in. This is one form. The other form is the styrofoam ring that everybody is used to seeing. Just something that you can throw to somebody if they fall in. And these should be readily accessible too, so that if you do have an accident and you're not wearing it, you get thrown into the water or the boat starts to sink, where you can grab your life vest and put them on, where you're not trying to get it out of a boat after it's already sunk.
Okay.
Another good type of a flotation device to throw to somebody, which is not the original intent for it, is the bumper pad. You usually have these on your boat for if you're going to dock, and it protects your boat from hitting the dock. But they also float. They have lines that are usually tied on them. Real easy just to toss it to somebody if they fall over. So just something that is really handy to keep around. You've already got it in your boat anyway.
That looked like something a lifeguard would carry.
Exactly,
so when you pulled
yeah.
it up, I thought it was the same thing.
Yeah, it's just a flotation device that's easy to throw. Same premise. One of the other, after the the life preservers, the other most important thing that you can carry on your boat is a chart. And we sell these at the marina. They sell them in every major department store, is charts of the waterways. This one is specific to Lake Harris and Lake Griffin. And it shows your shallow areas, your deeper areas, where there's hazards in the water. This is just a great tool to have. If you have this chart, if you get lost, you can identify where you're at. It's got GPS readings, so if you got your cell phone out there, I don't know where I'm at, you can use your GPS readings on your phone to figure out where you're at on the map. These are invaluable. Every boat should have this with them. Another thing that is required on your boat is a whistle. And it's such a simple thing, but it's actually the one item that most people don't have. It's a sound device that if you're in distress will carry much further than your voice. I'm not going to blow it because it is very loud.
Come on.
And amazingly, there are whistles that they prefer. When I say they, I'm referring to the Coast Guard or FWC, the people who regulate, what you should have on your boat. Most whistles have that little ball in it that regulate the whistle. The problem is that those fill with water, they don't whistle hardly at all. So what you want is a whistling device that does not have the little ball or bead in it.
Okay.
So a buck. Just so cheap and easy, but will save your life. These are my personal favorite. And no, we're not going to shoot them.
Darn.
But flares. It's such a small package, can fit right into a backpack or tuck it up underneath your console of your boat. But should you get stranded, you're stuck at night, you've got the flares. So it's better to have them and not need them. Other good things to have for your boat, an anchor. I know a lot of people water ski around here. They think, why do I need an anchor? If you lose power on your boat, you need to stay in one spot. If you just keep blowing all around the lake, no one's ever going to be able to find you. So an anchor is good to have even if you don't think you're going to need it. Another good thing to have is a float plan. Where you're putting your boat out, what time you're putting your boat out, where you're planning on going, and most importantly, when you're planning on coming in. File a float plan and give it to somebody you know. Even if you just call them on the phone and leave it on their voicemail. Hey, I'm going out of Singletary Park. I'm going to go skiing out in Lake Griffin. I'm going to come back about 5 o'clock. Just check on me if you could later on. That way it's going on 7 o'clock at night. These people haven't heard from you. They know to let someone know, hey, something's going on. He said he'd be back by 5 o'clock. It's 7, and they can start the rescue.
That's a great backup plan.
It's a great backup plan, and it's just so easy. And that's what a lot of boater safety is. It's just simple, easy things that you can do, and it might save your life.
Now, I know it's not required for a boat inspection, but it is free, correct?
Yes, it is. We have a wonderful local chapter of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and they will perform free boat inspections. In fact, during the summer, they'll stage up at the Venetian Gardens boat ramp, and they'll do voluntary boat inspections of your boat. That's where, if you want them to, you ask them, would you please inspect my boat? They'll come on board, they'll look over your required items, what you've got, what you're missing. They may be able to flag some hazards you're not even aware of. Anything you're deficient on, you don't get ticketed for. It's completely voluntary. They're just trying to help you. A lot of people don't want to use this because they're afraid, oh, they are going to give me a ticket, or oh, they're going to call the police. That is not the intention. They're there to keep you safe on the water. If you see them out there, take them up on it. Let them look over your boat. Let them make a list of what you need to make your boat as safe as possible.
Speaking of safety practices on the boat, what about drinking on boats?
Never advisable. And I understand. It's real tempting. You're out on the water. The sun is gorgeous. You're water skiing. And if you're not the operator of the boat, then so be it. But if you're the operator of the boat, you're responsible for everybody on that boat. And that's just as serious as if you're driving a car with everybody in your car. Especially if you've got people water skiing or tubing behind your boat. You really need your judgment to be intact. And you factor in alcohol with sun exposure, potential dehydration, the movement of the water, it's going to make the signs and symptoms of intoxication that much more dramatic. So it's just not worth the risk. And it's illegal. You can get a BUI, boating under the influence, and that will definitely ruin your day.
Absolutely. And you talked about being able to make decisions for instance, if there's a storm coming,
Yes.
what should a boater do?
First off, storm prevention starts the day before. It would be great if we had the kind of weather here in Florida where you could just jump in your boat anytime you want and go out. But especially during the summer, you know, those storms creep up pretty fast. Before we get on our boat, we're on the radar the night before. We're looking at what the wind advisory is, what the weather forecast is, and as well, you know, we've got our phones with us. If we see clouds coming up or the winds pick up, we're on our phones checking the weather. If it looks like it's blowing up at all, we come in. Because when you're out on the water, you're the highest point on the surface of the water, you and your boat, and there's really no protection. There's no magic cure-all that you can put on your boat, a lightning rod or anything to protect you. Your best bet is just to come on in and not take the risk.
We have covered so much safety here today. Is there a place where people could learn about boater safety?
Oh, without a doubt. At the marina, Venetian Cove Marina and Venetian Gardens, we've got so many pamphlets for people on boater safety and hazards, where you can get your boat inspection, where you can take boater safety classes, any of that. We're a great resource. Please come and use us. You don't have to be a customer at the marina to use us at a resource. We'll give you a bunch of pamphlets, and you'll be nice and safe out there on the water.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us today, Jennifer. Next, we'll get an update on our favorite baseball team.
The Leesburg Public Library welcomes you to LEGO Club every Monday at 4:30. It is for all ages. We bring the Legos and you bring your imagination.
Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Great to have you. So how was the season?
It was an exciting season this year. We had a little different makeup than we've had. The boys could hit the ball. There was a lot of runs scored, and the fans saw us go behind, come ahead, go behind, and so a lot of the games are really exciting. And we didn't win quite as many games as last year. Last year we set the league record with 29 wins, but we did end up with 26 this year. And you know, and we won the league, the regular season again this year for the second year in a row. So the season was very good.
It sounds like it was a very good season. I see that you brought somebody with you today. Who do we have?
Yes, I did. This is Jess Hall. He is one of our bat boys. The other bat boy is Liam Knowles. And Jess, I was at the ballpark like the first game of the season, I believe it was.
Yes, sir.
And someone came and said there's someone that would like to be a bat boy. And we had paperwork they have to fill out and stuff, so brought that over, and his parents filled it out, and Jess was ready to start right away, and I don't think he missed a game all season.
Fantastic. Jess, how did you like being a bat boy for the Leesburg Lightning?
I loved it. It was, I think, the best thing that happened to me in my whole life. I always wanted to be a bat boy when I was a little boy, and I always thought it would be the best job in the whole entire world. And when I came here, I prayed, and I asked Lord if I could be the bat boy for the Leesburg Lightnings, and happened. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the best thing ever.
What was your favorite part about being a bat boy?
That I got to be with the team and just try to help and learn more about them, and then learn more about the team, and just be there and help.
Well, it sounds like you really enjoyed it. Was there any part of being bat boy that you didn't particularly care for?
Actually, I liked everything. There's not one thing that I did not like. I loved everything.
Do you plan on playing baseball when you do you play baseball now, and do you plan on playing it later on in college?
I'm going to play it in college. I'm trying to find a team. I want to play baseball, but I'm trying to find a team right now. But I played baseball a long time ago, but that was a long time ago, and I want to get back into baseball again.
Now, the Leesburg Lightning is a great team, but do you have any favorite players?
I actually liked all the players. All the players I thought were the best, and I didn't favor one over the other. I liked all of them the best.
Great. Now, Bruce, I know that we went to Tropicana for the 4th time this year. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we've been in the league 6 years, and we've been to Tropicana 4 times. And I actually didn't realize it myself until we got there, and Sarah and Mike Whiting, the CEO, the founders of the league, said, "Well, it's normal again now. The Lightning are back," and they're saying, you know, you're here 4 out of 6 years that you're in the league, so we just kind of expect you to be here. And that's a pretty good record, so that's what the team shoots for every year, because you get to the last game, anything can happen, but you really want to get to Tropicana. It's quite a thrill for the players to play on that surface.
Because it's a much bigger field, correct?
It's a much bigger field. It's just the stadium, and I mean, it's a major league surface, and it's the best of the best, you know, so it's quite an experience for them.
So it's a major league experience.
Right.
That's fantastic. I heard that you went to Tropicana as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you think of being in the stadium?
I thought it was just amazing. I knew that they were going to go to Tropicana. I was like, this is huge. And I thought that I just thought it was the most amazing thing ever. It was really amazing.
So will you be back next year to be Bat Boy?
Yes, ma'am. I want to try to be the Bat Boy next year. I want to see if I can be the Bat Boy next year.
That's great. Sounds like you had a very good time.
Yes, ma'am.
Bruce, you had mentioned earlier that we had a lot of runs and a lot of hitting this season. Any memorable moments that stick out for you that you want to share today?
Well, we had more home runs than we've ever had. I think we set a league record for a number of home runs by a team. Jason Matusik had 8 home runs himself, led the league in home runs. But one that I remember down in Tropicana, well, I remember the grand slam the other team hit too, but I want to forget that. But Brett Moreland hit a home run to dead center field. It went over the 404 sign, and it hit the blue wall some distance. I think the announcer said they said it went about 445 feet. And that one I'll remember. It reminds me of the home run Jason Peacock hit in 07 in Sanford. A lot of people remember that. That's the home run that sent us to Tropicana that year. But that particular home run I'll remember for a long time. Then pitching-wise, we had some records set. Mike Clutterbuck won 8 games this summer. I think that's a record it may be a record in the league for the number of wins in a season. And Trey Norris set a record with 13 saves. So there was a lot of, a lot of firsts we had, especially in the offensive categories.
So it sounds like the fans had really good experience this year. How was attendance?
Attendance was really good. We averaged, we don't charge admission, and that's the first question ever. Are you going to charge next year? We don't plan on charging next year. We're still the only team that doesn't charge admission in the league, but we averaged about 1,100 people a game. The stadium was pretty well full every game, and that's really what makes it exciting. It's for the players and everybody, because that creates the atmosphere at Pat Thomas.
1,100 people, that's a lot of people. And you and I had spoken earlier about that it creates not only the experience, but family memories as well. So I'm sure a lot of families are talking about that memorable home run we just spoke of.
Right, yeah. Well, a lot of them will remember that. And I can still see Jake Hansen playing center field, running out to the fence. Jess probably can see this too. I mean, he made so many catches running back to the fence this year at Pat Thomas. It was, what did Chuck, the announcer, Chuck Johnson, said, he calls them Jake Hansen, where triples go to die in center field, and he just ran them down every time.
Wow. Speaking of the players, you've mentioned a few of the players. Are there any other players that stand out for you?
Well, this year we had more local representation than we've ever had. And one player in particular had an awesome year. Came second, I believe he was second in the league in hitting. He hit .354. Kyle Teef was our shortstop. He's currently at USF. We also had Jonah Davis, who ended up with 5 wins and an ERA, I think around 2.5. He was third in the league with ERA. Mike Clutterbuck won the 8 games. Trey Norris, 13 saves. Brett Moreland led the league in RBIs with 37 or 38. Jason Matusik with 8 home runs. And we had other players, Jake Hansen, Eric Heinman, and one other that had like 5 or 6 home runs. So we had just a lot of players that did a lot of things. Kyle Teef even hit. He had 11 stolen bases this year.
Wow.
And then we had Jake Cavender. He's a local product. We had Nick Palmer, a local product. Stetson Nelson is from the area. And then we had some players that we called up, so to speak, from the Thunder, which is a team in the Futures League. It's a development league before the players get to the collegiate league. And we can bring players up from that league. Now you can bring them up from any team. There's 6 teams in that league too. But we like to try to take them from the Thunder because that's the Leesburg team.
Why would you call a player up?
Well, because we'll lose players to injury. We lost a couple pitchers. Nick Palmer had an injury late in the season. Dylan Hathcock, he had an injury about mid-season, and we found out he was all done. Tyler Kelman had an injury, and so he really hardly ever got to play this year. So you run short at different positions, and because this league is so close, you have a pretty good idea which players might help the team. So we called a few of them up, and one of them, Josh Gaines, a pitcher, ended up pitching some pretty key games for us at the end. So did a good job.
So it's a great experience for them as well to be called up to the Lightning.
Yeah, it is, and you know, of course, they're looking that next year they want to be in the collegiate league, and you know, and it's not necessarily that they don't have the talent to be in there. It's just there's a lot of players vying for all the positions on these teams, and you know, sometimes it just ends up that you know the position they're shooting for is full on the team that they want, and but this was a nice way. Colby Lesignan we called up. He ended up hitting over 350 for us. Landon Moore, an outfielder, he came up and played for a while. But there's some good players in that Futures League, so it's especially nice late in the season because you know you get the injuries and you can't just call somebody over in Texas and say, you want to come over here and play for 3 weeks, you know.
Right.
So
it's very, the collegiate league is very competitive then, as far as filling positions on teams.
oh, it's very competitive. We probably get 500 emails a year to fill the 27 positions we have.
Okay. So it sounds like we had a phenomenal team and a great season, and we know all of this couldn't happen without the volunteers. Any volunteers that stick out for you this season?
Well, if I tried to name them all, I'd miss some.
And then you get in
One's
trouble?
sitting right here, Jess, and Liam, his partner, his bat boy. They did an awesome job this summer, which is a very important job to the players. There's another one just out in the other room that was striker this year, Heather Brosman. And Nancy and John, they sold our souvenirs all year. Chuck Johnson, the announcer. John Meyer, the statistician. Roger and Bob Croft and Billy Matthews did the radio. And you can't, Kim Higgins that ran the concession stand, which is a lot of the high school boosters and the different teams. And that's probably one of the most famous concession stand because, as Chuck puts it, his quite possibly America's finest ballpark food. And they go through a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers and chicken sandwiches during the season. So.
Right. And it's reasonably priced too. So.
Right. Yeah, it is. And we've got interns. People don't realize that just as these players are coming to the team to try to go to the next step, to go to professional baseball, we have interns that are in sports management and trying to work their way into professional baseball as well. We had Matt Gracie and Anthony Composto as our team interns. Steve Livingston was our journalism intern. Caitlin Barrett was a trainer intern. And so they play a very important part in the season.
What's next for Leesburg Lightning?
Well, we're already getting emails on people that want to coach and they want to play and be on the team next year. And the next thing that we have to do is put together a protected player list and get it to the league. And what this does is it prevents other teams from stealing our players. So it doesn't mean that if they're not on that list, they won't be back. But if they're on that list, at least we have first chance to try to sign them.
Excellent. And what about our coaching staff? Will they be back next year?
Well, I don't think Rich Billings will be back. We were excited to have Rich this year because he was the head coach for our championship team in '07. But Rich has moved to South Florida and is now coaching at Florida Atlantic University. So even if he could come up and spend the summer here and coach with us, it would limit us on what players we could have because he's at a Division I school.
Okay.
So, and our head coach, Dave Thurno, we haven't talked about that. We never talk about it during the season. And he's on vacation right now, a well-deserved vacation, but we'll sit down in the next couple of weeks and talk about it and put that list together. And he's had a good track record. He's won the regular season 2 years in a row. We got one win closer to winning that Tropicana. We made it this year. I would think he'd maybe want to come back and try to get that final win.
Well, it sounds like we had a great season this year. Looking forward to what the Leesburg Lightning's going to do next year. And thanks for being with us today, Bruce and Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on Leesburg's Parks and Recreation Show.